In this video, we're counting down 15 of the best fluid combat games that keep you in control. 15. Returnal. Returnal is one of those games where the action literally never lets up. It's basically a roguelike mixed with a third-person bullet hell. You drop onto this creepy alien planet, and from the second you start moving, you're in survival mode. Bright projectiles are flying across the screen, enemies are charging at you, and you're constantly dashing, jumping, and shooting just to stay alive. What makes it so addicting is how smooth it all feels. The dash mechanic is instant, the guns feel great, and the movement keeps you constantly in motion. You're always locked in this dance of dodging and countering, and when you get into the flow, it feels incredible. Sure, there's a bit of story going on, but it never forces you into long cutscenes. Instead, the game lets the combat do the talking. If you're after pure, high-speed chaos that never stops, Returnal is the perfect way to kick off this list. 14. Demon's Souls. This one is a classic, but don't let the slower pace fool you. Demon's Souls has some of the most satisfying combat out there. Every move you make carries weight. Swing too early, you're punished. Time a parry perfectly, you're rewarded with one of the most satisfying ripostes in gaming. The combat has that deliberate style that forces you to commit, but once you get the rhythm down, it flows beautifully. Boss fights are where the fluidity really shines. They're massive, intimidating, and they push you to use everything you've learned. And unlike a lot of modern games, Demon's Souls doesn't bog you down with cutscenes. Outside of a quick boss intro or a tiny cinematic here and there, it's just pure gameplay. That's why people keep coming back to it. It's a brutal, focused experience where the combat and atmosphere tell the story, not some unskippable cutscene. Demon's Souls proves that sometimes less is more. 13. Thymesia. Thymesia is one of those games a lot of people slept on, but if you're into fast Souls-like combat, it's absolutely worth your time. The pace here is way quicker than Demon's Souls or even Bloodborne. You've got these plague weapons that let you snatch powers from enemies, parries that feel super tight, and dodges that come out fast enough to save you by a hair's width. The best way to describe the combat is like a dance. Fast steps, quick reactions, and punishing mistakes. Every fight feels like it demands precision, but once you get into the groove, it flows in a way that feels really smooth and rewarding. And here's the big plus. There are basically no cutscenes. The game sprinkles in bits of story through notes and small bits of dialogue, but it doesn't stop the action. If you want something short, sharp, and all about fluid swordplay, Thymesia definitely deserves a spot here. 12. Nioh 2. If you want depth in your combat, Nioh 2 is stacked. This game takes samurai action and cranks it all the way up. You've got multiple stances to master, a huge arsenal of weapons, and even demon transformations that flip fights on their head. It can feel overwhelming at first, but once it clicks, the combat becomes ridiculously fluid. Switching stances mid-fight, chaining combos, pulling off counters. It feels like you're in total control of a deadly ballet. Now yes, Nioh 2 does have cutscenes between missions, but the beauty is you can skip them instantly. If you don't care about the story and just want to fight, you can dive straight into the gameplay every single time. The combat is where this game shines brightest. It rewards skill, timing, and creativity, and it never gets old. If you've ever wanted to feel like a demon-slaying samurai with endless tools at your disposal, Nioh 2 nails it. 11. Sekiro. Shadows die twice. Sekiro is a game that makes you feel every single clash of the blade. This isn't about spamming attacks or hiding behind a shield. Sekiro forces you to be aggressive, to master timing, and to stay sharp under pressure. The whole combat system is built around posture. You parry attacks until your enemy breaks, then you finish them with a brutal death blow. Fluid and incredibly satisfying once you lock into the rhythm. What makes Sekiro so good is that once you get into the flow, it feels like a real sword fight. Strike, parry, counter, finish. Bosses push that to the extreme, forcing you to read patterns and stay focused. Cutscenes? There are a few short ones, mostly to set up big moments, but they're quick and out of the way. The game doesn't pull you from the action. It keeps you locked in combat where you belong. Sekiro is pure intensity. 10. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is what happens when you take the Souls formula and tell players, stop hiding, start attacking, and man, it works. The combat is aggressive, fast, and always pushing you to be on the offensive. You're not rewarded for playing it safe. You're rewarded for going in, striking hard, and staying in your enemy's face. The trick is the regain system. If you take a hit but fight back quickly, you can steal your health right back. That mechanic alone keeps the combat flowing like nothing else. And let's talk about the weapons. Trick weapons are a game changer. You might start a fight with a short blade and mid-combo, transform it into a massive scythe without missing a beat. It feels stylish and fluid in a way few games can pull off. As for cutscenes, outside of a quick intro or a boss entrance, Bloodborne doesn't bother with them. The atmosphere, the combat, and the world tell the story. And honestly, that makes it even scarier. And even better. 9. Prodeus. If you love old-school shooters but want a modern twist, Prodeus is the perfect middle ground. Think of it like Doom from the 90s, but remade with slick new visuals and effects. The gunplay is fast, punchy, and ridiculously fluid. Every weapon feels like it has impact. Shotguns blast enemies into chunks, machine guns tear through hordes, and the explosions never get old. What's great about Prodeus is that it doesn't waste your time. There are no story cutscenes, no cinematic pauses, nothing. It's just pure arena shooting from start to finish. You're dropped into a level, given guns, and told to survive. That's all it needs to be. The combat loop is what makes it addictive. Move fast, kill faster, grab ammo, repeat. The whole thing is tuned for flow, so you're constantly in motion, constantly shooting, and constantly having fun. Prodeus is proof that sometimes simple is better. Pure gunplay, pure adrenaline. 8. Risk of Rain 2. Risk of Rain 2 is one of those games where the longer you survive, the crazier the combat gets. You start off kind of weak, a basic gun, some simple abilities. But as you pick up more items, you slowly turn into a powerhouse. And then the game really starts cooking. Suddenly, you're sprinting across massive arenas, unloading dozens of abilities at once, while hundreds of enemies swarm you from every direction. It's absolute chaos, but controlled chaos. The beauty of it is how fluid it feels once you're stacked with items. Movement gets faster, attacks chain together, and the screen turns into this fireworks display of damage numbers. And through it all, there's no cutscene to slow you down. The game is all about the run, the momentum, and the thrill of pushing just a little further each time. Solo or co-op, it doesn't matter. Risk of Rain 2 is pure flow, pure combat, and endlessly replayable. 7. Enter the Gungeon. If you like bullet hell games, Enter the Gungeon is the definition of fluid combat. You walk into a room, the doors slam shut, and suddenly the screen is filled with more bullets than you thought possible. The only way to survive? Dodge, roll through the chaos. Fire back with whatever insane gun you've picked up and pray you don't choke. What makes this game so fun is how smooth it all feels. The dodge roll is your best friend. Invincibility frames that let you dive straight through walls of projectiles. Combine that with a huge arsenal of ridiculous weapons, like a gun that shoots fish or a bullet that fires guns, and the combat never feels stale. And the best part? Zero cutscenes. None. Just room after room of pure action. Every run is different, every fight is tense, and every win feels like you pulled off a miracle. It's fast, it's fluid, and it's just non-stop fun. 6. Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a roguelike that feels like it was built around one idea. Make the combat as smooth as possible, and it nails it. Every swing, every roll, every jump feels sharp and responsive. You're always in control, and when you chain it all together, dodge an attack, counter with a slam, then roll right into another enemy, it feels seamless. The game keeps the action flowing by stripping out the fluff. There are no real cutscenes, no cinematic story breaks. The world is mysterious, sure, but it's told through exploration, not through stopping the action. You just keep running, keep fighting, and keep pushing forward. What makes Dead Cells shine is how different every run can feel. One time you're a fire-spewing monster. The next you're freezing enemies and smashing them with a giant hammer. No matter what build you end up with, the combat feels fluid, fast, and endlessly fun. 5. Hades. Hades is one of those games that just nails the flow of combat. Every run feels fresh, every weapon feels powerful, and the game constantly throws new ways to mix up your playstyle. You're dashing across the screen, chaining attacks, and dropping abilities from the gods that make you feel like an unstoppable force. The combat is so fluid that even after dozens of runs, it never gets old. What makes it even better is how it balances story and gameplay. Yeah, there's dialogue back at the House of Hades, but it never interrupts the action. You're in, you fight, you die, you start again. Simple as that. No long cutscenes, no waiting around. The best thing about Hades is how satisfying it feels. You're constantly improving, not just through upgrades, but through your own skill. Every dodge, every combo, every victory feels earned. It's stylish, it's fast, and it's easily one of the most fluid action games of the last decade. 4. Ghostrunner is like cyberpunk ninja parkour on steroids. The whole game is about speed and momentum. You're wall running, grappling, sliding under obstacles, and slicing enemies apart with a katana. And when you chain it all together, it feels insanely smooth. The combat is one-hit kill, both for you and your enemies, so it forces you to move with precision and keep the flow going. The coolest part is that every encounter feels like a puzzle. How do you clear a room full of enemies without breaking your stride? Do you wall run, dash and slash, or grapple, slide and slice? When you figure it out, it feels like you're playing a perfectly choreographed action scene. And there's no downtime, no cutscenes dragging you out of the action. You die, you respawn instantly, and you're back at it. Ghostrunner is all about flow. When you're in the zone, it feels like nothing else. 3. ULTRAKILL. ULTRAKILL is pure chaos in the best possible way. It takes the speed and intensity of old-school shooters like Quake, cranks the dial all the way up, and then adds modern movement mechanics that make it feel fresh. You're sliding across arenas, dashing through enemies, punching rockets out of the air, and turning everything into a bloody mess. And it never stops. The game rewards you for being aggressive, literally. The only way to heal is by getting close and bathing in enemy blood, so you're always pushing forward, always fighting at full speed. The combat never slows down, and the flow is insane once you get into it. No cutscenes, no interruptions, just straight-up non-stop action, with one of the best soundtracks you'll ever hear. ULTRAKILL isn't just fluid combat. It's combat designed to keep your heart racing from start to finish. This game is pure adrenaline, and it never lets up. 2. Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 is the king of stylish combat. Every move feels like it was designed to look amazing, and the game constantly pushes you to be creative. You can't just button mash your way through. The combat flows when you mix up combos, swap weapons mid-fight, and keep that style ranking climbing higher and higher. And when you're in the zone, chaining moves together, it feels like you're playing through an anime fight scene. What's crazy is that each character feels completely different. Nioh with his Devil Breakers, V with his summons, and Dante with, well, basically an entire armory at his disposal. The combat system is so deep and so smooth that you'll keep coming back just to master new techniques. Yes, the game does have cutscenes, but here's the key. You can skip them instantly. So if you're here only for the action, DMC5 gives you pure, fluid, flashy combat with zero interruptions. And at number 1, it has to be Doom Eternal. This game is the definition of fluid combat. Everything in it is designed to keep you moving, keep you shooting, and keep you in the fight. You've got glory kills to get health, the flame belch to farm armor, the chainsaw to restock ammo. It's all part of this insane combat loop that never slows down. What makes it so good is how all those mechanics flow together. You're constantly swapping weapons, jumping across arenas, grappling demons, and shredding everything in sight. The rhythm of it is addictive. Once you lock into the flow, it feels like one long, unstoppable fight. And best of all, there are no cutscenes pulling you out of it. The story is there if you care, but it never interrupts the pace. Doom Eternal is fast. It's brutal, and it's pure adrenaline from start to finish. Hands down, the most fluid combat game you can play. And that's the list. Which one of these is your favorite? Or did I miss one that deserves a spot here? Let me know down in the comments.